Before we begin the video, be sure to check out SEGA Forever on the following social channels for video pop-up trivia, concept art, interviews, and more content covering various SEGA titles old and new, with the links provided in the description below. SEGA Forever also has a Discord channel where you can discuss all things SEGA with fans around the world. Now, let's begin with today's SEGA Lores video.
Roger, we got a bad situation down there. We got a band of terrorists that have seized control of the building. They're holding 30 hostages inside, including the president's daughter. I repeat, they have the president's daughter in there. We have to get her out as soon as possible. Over.
What kind of weapons does this tough detective use? Watch out, criminals. Make way for Mr. Dynamite himself, Bruno Delinger. A 42-year-old hot-headed detective from the San Francisco Police Department and born in Texas, Bruno goes whatever lengths needed to capture criminals. While he has an excellent arrest rate in catching them, the claims for damages caused by his actions have climbed over to $14 billion, earning him the nickname Mr. Dynamite. Bruno is a do-it-yourself kind of guy and is highly trained in mixed martial arts from his time in the military. He also makes good use of any items he can use as weapons to defeat his foes. In his personal life, he is separated from his wife Barbara and has a daughter named Candy Delinger. On his spare time, Bruno enjoys playing Beautiful Sunday with his guitar and spending time with his pet monkey, Banana. On December 31st, 2015 New Year's Eve, SFPD Chief Joe McGuire assigns Bruno and his partner Cindy Holliday, a super elite policewoman appointed as SWAT captain at age 23, on a mission assignment to save the president's daughter, Caroline Parwell, who has been held hostage by Wolf Hongo and his terrorist group inside the Eternal Tower, a towering symbol of prosperity for a certain Japanese company in the city of San Francisco. Together, Bruno and Cindy fought their way through several floors of the tower filled with tough enemies. In the end, Bruno and Cindy were able to gain the upper hand against Wolf and save the president's daughter.
Thank you.
We have a situation down there. Some modern-day pirates have hijacked a huge cruiser. They're holding 2,000 hostages inside, including the president's daughter. We have to invade the ship, clear the pirates, and rescue the hostages, especially the president's daughter.
A year later, after the Eternal Tower incident, Bruno was promoted captain of the SFPD and briefly recovered his relationship with his wife. However, his happiness was short-lived as he received a distress call from the president once again and got caught up in a sea-jacking incident on a large passenger vessel, the Bermuda, orchestrated by terrorists calling themselves the Pirates of the Caribbean, led by Wolf Hongo, who went through a transformation to destroy Bruno after their last encounter. Partnering with the Navy SEALs members Gene Ivy and Eddie Brown, Bruno was able to stop the Pirates of the Caribbean, defeat the evil Wolf Hongo in hand-to-hand combat, and again rescued the president's daughter from danger.
Thank you for saving my life again.
With his achievements catching the recognition of the president himself, Bruno has continued to take part in hostage rescues and anti-terrorist missions. Development on Dynamite Deka began on the SEGA Titan video arcade hardware, the coin-op equivalent of the SEGA Saturn architecture, with a side-scrolling action game in mind under the name Deadline. Makoto Uchida once again took the helm on developing this title with his experience on the beat-em-up genre, along with the help from the combined forces of his AM1 division and the SEGA Technical Institute. Uchida-san and his team wanted to make an action game where the story would let you play in many different situations, which he knew the new STV board could offer the compatibility to make his game more like an action movie, with CD quality sound and multiple camera angles. As with other arcade games he developed as a major action film fan, Uchida-san based Dynamite Deka on the Die Hard series, starring Bruce Willis, as he was impressed by the action and stories and had envisioned a game based off the original movie's plot since he had first seen it.
Mayday, mayday, anyone copying Channel 9?
Terrorists have seized the Nakatomi building and are holding at least 30 people hostage. I repeat, unknown number of terrorists.
6 or more armed with automatic weapons at Nakatomi Plaza,
Century City.
The main hero of the Dynamite Deka series, Bruno Delinger, was heavily based on Bruce Willis's character, John McClane from the Die Hard film series by 25th Century Fox, with concepts illustrated by the late Tony D. Zuniga during his time with AM1 and SEGA Technical Institute. With Dynamite Deka and Die Hard being vastly similar to each other, SEGA did not secure the Die Hard license from Fox Interactive until late in development. As a beat-em-up series, Dynamite Deka included many of the standards of the genre, such as a wide range of combat moves and the use of items as weapons. Uchida-san became fond of including items for interaction while working on Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder in 1992. He considered that a variety of usable items could be substantially improved from that game, and he wanted to make them bigger and flashier. Another way Dynamite Deka spiced up the gameplay was by incorporating QuickTime events, which were used in other games such as Dragon Slayer in 1983 to Shenmue in 1999. Dynamite Deka QTEs differ in that they occurred during cutscenes between stages instead of being focus of the gameplay. Failing the scenes would result in a loss of health or even prompt an additional action scene, which could have been otherwise avoided. The team members within AM1 and STI didn't want Dynamite Deka to be perceived as a generic side-scrolling action game, and the transition scenes were a part of the game design from the very beginning. These scenes were important inclusions. They gave players a sense of movement within the building, creating a sort of world to explore in a cinematic way. American film and video game composer Howard Drawson composed the soundtrack for both Dynamite Deka 1 and 2, and voices Bruno Delinger in all 3 games. You may also know him as the composer for other SEGA classics such as Comic Zone and Sonic & Knuckles. In The House of the Dead 2, you can unlock a Bruno costume in original mode once you reach the last chapter and shoot the last door on the left before confronting the Emperor. Once these conditions are met, you will be greeted by Caroline Parwell, who will reward you with the costume. In the SEGA Ages 2500 remake, Dynamite Deka makes several callbacks to classic SEGA arcade games by AM1 through unlockable modes such as Golden Axe and Altered Beast. Bruno appears in Project Cross Zone as a solo unit character and is voiced by Ben Haruta, who happens to voice John McClane in the Die Hard film series in Japan. Perhaps a coincidence?
Dei, 俺のダンベルとチェーンソー、消火器を持っといてくれ。俺のモップと胡椒と柱時計も頼んだぜ。
ちょっと私の袖パンクしちゃうから。
使えるものは何でも使うもん。まだまだ。ゴールデンアックスモップだぜ。暗いな。覚悟しな。うわ、俺の服が。
A light novel based on the Dynamite Deka series was released in Japan in 2014, titled Dynamite Deka Burning 2020, which takes place after the events of EX and revolves around a 65-year-old Bruno who is retired and divorced from his wife. He visits Tokyo, Japan for a sightseeing trip as a distraction thanks to Caroline. However, his vacation was short-lived as he had to go up against a terrorist group known as the Ferrari and teams up with a new partner named Saito Rage, a young detective who looked up to Bruno for saving him when he was a child during the events of Dynamite Deka EX. Sega's initial game, Deep Scan, an arcade game created by Masahiro Yoshi and released by Sega in 1980, was included as a bonus game and was the first game to employ the revolutionary scanning technique at the time. Players can earn credits in Dynamite Deka by shooting down ships. Another arcade game from the 1980 was included in the sequel Dynamite Cop called Tranquilizer Gun, where players could play as a yellow hunter with the objective of tranquilizing animals and bringing them back into a truck under a time limit. The final arcade classic that was included in Dynamite Deka's history was Periscope, an electromechanical arcade shooting gallery game that was released in 1965 and designed by Masaya Nakamura and David Rawson, was included in Sega Age's 2500 Dynamite Deka remake for players to gain credits for the main game. Dynamite Deka is one of my favorite beat-em-up action games of all time from Sega. I remember seeing an arcade cabinet of Die Hard Arcade when I was only 6 years old at a movie theater where I live. Back then, I haven't really played the game, but I will always remember the QuickTime events and the silly look of Wolf Hongo's face during the game's attract mode. Back in the day, whenever I come over to my cousin's house to play the sequel, Dynamite Cop, it was our 3D version of Streets of Rage on the Sega Dreamcast, filled with non-stop action. I also kind of find Bruno's ways of apprehending criminals quite comical with items you wouldn't expect to be used as weapons. I was also hyped when he appeared in Project Cross Zone and instantly recognized his iconic Bruce Willis look and ripped clothes from the original games. Uchida-san once again used his wild inspirations to develop an arcade masterpiece. One day, I would love to see this series come back in a Sega arcade disc compilation for consoles, or a second arcade mini cabinet for everyone to have easy access to the games. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you'd like to know more about Sega's characters and development of their franchises, be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more SEGA Lores videos. You can also support me through Streamlabs, as it will help the channel in future videos. Until then, yippee-ki-yay, mother...